Welcome to Dr. Dan's Psychological Facts. Dive into a world of psychological insights, mental health tips, and fascinating facts about the human mind. Subscribe now for fresh weekly episodes. You're just one click away from unlocking your potential. From Dr. Abai Daniel. The cost of overkindness. Let this not be your story. This is a work of fiction. The names, characters, and incidents portrayed in this narrative are entirely imaginary. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. The purpose of this story is to offer insights into relationship dynamics and is not intended to depict or reference any real individuals or situations. In every marriage, balance is key. Love, kindness, and care should flow both ways, with each partner contributing to the household and relationship. But what happens when one partner, out of pure love and kindness, takes on more than their fair share, until it's no longer an act of care, but a source of imbalance? Meet Sibi and Anju. Sibi, a kind-hearted husband, always tried to make his wife happy. He believed that love meant doing everything for her. So, he worked tirelessly, managing the household chores, taking care of the children, and even preparing meals. Anju, on the other hand, was content to relax and enjoy her time, often spending hours on her phone, chatting with friends, and scrolling through social media. Sibi did everything. He took on the entire load: cooking, cleaning, managing the children's school schedules, and making sure everything at home ran smoothly. His desire to make Anju's life easier led him to do all the heavy lifting, but what he didn't realize was that, in doing so, he was enabling a dangerous pattern. Anju, who has never been grateful for Sibi's care, slowly grew accustomed to this lifestyle. She no longer felt the need to help with chores or contribute to family responsibilities. Instead, she found herself distracted by her phone, engaging in online chats with others, seeking attention from people who weren't a part of her real-life responsibilities. Sibi, exhausted after these long days at work, hoped for a warm greeting from Anju. But instead, he was met with her indifference. Anju barely looked up from her phone, lost in conversation with strangers or acquaintances, seeking enjoyment and excitement from the attention she received online. The more Sibi did, the more Anju took it for granted. She had become consumed by her own desires for attention and validation from others, neglecting the family that was right in front of her. She no longer noticed Sibi's exhaustion or the emotional toll her indifference was taking on him. Sibi tried to engage Anju in conversation, but she dismissed him, focusing on her phone. Sibi softly, with a hint of frustration, asked Anju, "Don't you think we should spend some time together? The kids need help with their homework, and I'm really tired." Anju, laughing, still looking at her phone, Yeah, I'll get to it later, okay? I'm just having some fun. I'll check on the kids in a bit." Sibi felt drained. His attempts to connect with Anju only met with dismissal. His overgiving, his constant acts of kindness, had inadvertently created a gap. He was no longer seen as a partner but as a provider, a caretaker, a tool to make her life easier. Anju, on the other hand, was becoming increasingly narcissistic, focused only on her own enjoyment, with little to no regard for her family's needs. Sibi started asking himself, "What's happening, man? I give everything to her, the kids, the house, our life, and yet she's just checked out. It's like she doesn't even care anymore. All she does is stay on her phone, laughing at messages, meeting people, and ignoring what we need." Sibi replied himself, "You've been so kind, you've overgiven. It sounds like she's become complacent, even narcissistic. You're doing everything for her, but you've lost the balance. She's no longer appreciating it, and now she's taking advantage of your kindness. You need to set boundaries, for your own sake, and for the sake of your family." Sibi finally realized the truth. By giving too much without considering his own needs, he had enabled Anju's behavior. In trying to be the perfect husband, he had lost sight of what truly mattered: mutual care, respect, and a balanced partnership. Sibi started losing sleep, with exhaustion and frustration. Anju sleeps soundly next to him, unaware of his distress. As the days passed, CB's exhaustion grew more profound. The weight of overgiving, of trying to please Anju while receiving no appreciation, began to take a toll on him, not just physically, but mentally. At night, when the world was quiet and still, he couldn't escape the thoughts racing in his mind. His mind replayed every argument, every dismissed attempt at conversation, every lonely moment he spent trying to fix things alone. CB repeatedly asked himself, wondering where things went wrong, why Anju no longer cared, and why he kept pushing himself harder for someone who seemed indifferent. Every night, the weight of his unreciprocated kindness kept him awake, tossing and turning in bed, unable to find peace. Despite his exhaustion, CB couldn't bring himself to rest. His mind was consumed by the constant guilt of not doing enough for Anju, and the pain of her dismissive attitude toward him. He was trapped in a cycle of overcompensating, trying to hold together a marriage that felt like it was falling apart. The more he tried, the more distant she became. Sleepless nights haunted him like anything. CB turned to alcohol. At first, it was just a way to relax, to ease the stress of his overwhelming responsibilities. But as time went on, the alcohol became a crutch, something to numb the emotional pain and frustration he felt from the constant rejection and humiliation at the hands of Anju. The alcohol helped him escape for a while, gave him a fleeting sense of relief from the exhaustion of being constantly overlooked, gaslighted, and taken for granted. The more he drank, the less he felt the sting of Anju's coldness. The more he drank, the less he had to face the painful reality that his marriage was slowly slipping through his fingers. Anju's statement had become a constant reminder of his failure in her eyes. "We shouldn't get married. You are not the perfect match for me. You should be grateful for everything I do. You have achieved everything with my grace." Her words were like blades, chipping away at his self-worth. He felt trapped in a cycle of trying to please her, but only being met with ridicule. CB couldn't understand it. He gave everything, his time, his energy, his love, and yet, all he received was cruelty and neglect. The alcohol became his way to cope with the emotional toll, a way to drown out the constant humiliation and gaslighting. Over time, the alcohol wasn't just a way to cope with stress, it became a way for CB to escape from a painful reality. He was slowly losing himself in the process. The very kindness that had once fueled his love for Anju had become the chains that bound him. The more he gave, the more he lost. Despite everything, deep down, CB still loved his family. He longed for the days when things were simple, when Anju's smile wasn't distant, when his children's laughter filled the house. But in the silence of the night, with only the empty bottles as company, he began to wonder if he had lost the person he once was. CB had once been proud of his strength, his body was a reflection of discipline and power. But now, years of stress and neglect had taken their toll. His once muscular frame was now thin and weak, drained by sleepless nights and emotional exhaustion. The body he had once shaped with care now seemed foreign. Years of giving without taking care of himself had led to his physical decline. His health was deteriorating further, hypertension was damaging his vision, and his reflection showed the cost of neglect. But instead of seeking help, he turned away, unable to face the reality of what had become of him. CB was fading away, unnoticed and unappreciated. Anju had been anticipating his death, pushing him to sell all his vehicles. In return, she made him buy a new one for herself. On top of that, she took out a large life insurance policy on him, claiming she wanted to secure her future after his passing. This was more than he could bear. The alcohol had become his escape, but it was no solution. Looking at himself in the mirror, CB realized he couldn't continue this way. The man in the reflection was someone he barely recognized, and he knew he needed to make a change. He wanted to take control of his life. He joined the gym, tapered alcohol intake, and started self-care. But the reality behind Anju's behavior was something else. To be continued. Stay tuned for the shadows of deception. Thanks for watching Dr. Dan's. Subscribe to unlock the mysterious world of psychology with Dr. Abai Daniel.